Okay, let me. Great. So after your presentation, John, we'll open it up to discussion, have members ask questions. Anybody can ask a question. You can come off mute or you can type it in chat. And then we'll go from there. So with that, John, I'll hand it over to you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Allow me to introduce myself. So my name is John Mwakima. I come from a county called Taita Taveta County, which is in Kenya, Africa. So it's a pleasure to be in this platform and to share some of the experiences that I have interacting with a REDD+ project. So I was born and brought up in in Taita Taveta County. So as you can see from the map there, that's where Kenya is located. It's more of located in the East Africa, and the project is actually in the South Kenya, in the coastal region, and we happen to be one of the 6 coastal counties. So I'm glad to share the first-hand experience that I've had interacting with this REDD+ project here. So the project actually was started way back in 1997. Yeah. So when I grew up, initially we didn't have such a project, but I've come to experience a lot, and coupled with my experience, whereby I was first, when I finished my university, I was able to join the county government of Taita Taveta, that's my home county, where I served as an administrator, and I rose up the ranks from being a deputy sub-county administrator in charge of a sub-county to being a county administrator, and I was able to transverse quite a number of places, giving me an experience of seeing some of the challenges that my people are going through, and some of the mitigation measures that have been put in place, and being able to compare the livelihoods where we have interventions such as the REDD+ project and where we don't have. So I was also able to work as a county minister for health at some point, and being a county minister for health, able to interact with quite a number of thousands of residents seeking health interventions. And I've seen how REDD+ project has come in to support our local community members in enhancing medical services. So these are some of the things that I'll be glad to share, of course, highlighting some challenges that we have experienced, so that we can, brainstorm and see how we can move this industry to another level. So I think if you look at most of the discussions happening in the corporate world, robust carbon projects really contribute so hugely into meeting the goals and objectives of most of the corporate world. When you talk of offsetting emissions, that's one of the key projects, and every organization currently is really striving to go green and to play a role in mitigating climate change. And it's also important to understand that as we talk of some of these climate change mitigation efforts, community engagement is very key, and this is something that I'll also share in my presentation, and I think it's very critical also for this platform. Again, we need to be alive to the ground realities, when you talk of climate change mitigation and adaptation efforts. And I think it's also a good way of me sharing some of the real life community experiences we have had with the carbon market. And as we have this conversation, indeed, we are talking of a very huge industry, that is the carbon market industry. Globally, lots of stakeholders, sectors have gained a lot of interest in this sector because of the transformative nature of the interventions which are being seen there. There is lots of monies which are being pumped into this sector, and many people are really gaining interest. And here we're talking of more than $1 billion US being invested in this market globally annually. So the key players here, we talk of the governments, corporations, developers, and communities. And our conversation revolves around that. And it's important also now, from my perspective, to share how the communities are interacting with such projects. Where I come from, climate change has not spared us. There is a lot of unpredictability when it comes to rainfall that used to be experienced, the seasons that we used to experience. If you look at before and currently, you'll find that our farmers are no longer relying on agriculture, which is one of the primary ways of survivals here. There is a lot of water scarcity being experienced. Lots of livestock have died. And of course, climate change has resulted to lots of health issues being experienced, dilapidated public infrastructure, because again, we don't have enough funds to support some of this public infrastructure as a community. Community members have not been able to raise the required finances to support education of their children. And at some point, we had lots of cases being experienced of school dropouts, youth engaging in drugs, loitering around, increase in crime rates, and all that. So this really pushed people into some of the illegal and unethical practices, such as doing poaching. You know, poaching here is illegal in Kenya. But people were being forced to get into the national parks, conservancies, to hunt for wild animals so that they can, place some bread on the table. A lot of charcoal burning was being experienced simply because people could not rely on their farms anymore. So they had to resort to extractive ways for survival. So the carbon market has really changed how the community currently is handling some of this climate change impact. Because the funds that we're able to raise from this project, like now we're talking of the Kasigao Corridor Rail Plus project, it's being used to fund conservation efforts. And as that happens, we are able to invest into the local community, thereby promoting socioeconomic empowerment. And this is something that I will demonstrate. Now, involving the local communities in the REDD+ project is really, really critical, because they are the ones who face the brunt of climate change. If you don't invest in the local community members, then they will always resort to the next available option to enable them, survive. And in our case, they will always resort to cutting down trees, doing that kind of illegal poaching, and thereby worsening the situation of climate change. So from the experience that we have had, whenever you have the local community members involved from the word go in REDD+ project, then there is the ownership is there, is guaranteed. And they always feel honored to be part of the conservation effort that promotes their socioeconomic empowerment. So one of the questions that I think, if you look at the ongoing discussions that are happening, is that there has been a lot of discussion around integrity of carbon projects. There has been lots of myths and misconception going around how the communities are benefiting from the carbon projects. From the experience that we have had in the Kasigao Corridor REDD+ project, which is managed by Wildlife Works, you'll find that the community members, because they have been involved and they have understood the importance of conservation, they have also contributed to development of standard operating procedures for the entire project, whereby even the revenue sharing formula, how the funds are supposed to be expended, when it comes to the structures that are supposed to oversee implementation of projects from the community revenue share. All those structures, we have the local community members being involved, and they're really appreciating this. And they have ended up owning the project. and all the benefits that come with it. So they feel that they are part and parcel of the project. There's also lots of benefits that have come out of that, as I will enumerate. So this project actually started in 2009, and in our case, it cuts across 6 administrative locations, and we are talking of about 120,000 community members benefiting from it. The entire land that we have entrusted in this project is about 500,000 acres of forest, and there are quite a number of mammals which are being protected in this area, and we have also endangered species which are also benefiting from the conservation efforts that we have put in place. And we are talking of more than 300 species of birds in this protected land. We have agreed on a revenue sharing formula with the project developer, whereby we have about 33% of the project revenue going towards the community landowners. And then we have 50% going directly towards a community trust, which now manages all the projects being implemented, that is including infrastructural development, livelihood projects, scholarships, that including scholarships and bursaries, which are being offered to the local pupils and students. Then we have the balance going towards project operating costs. So community benefits actually cut across education, whereby we have the scholarship and school infrastructure being improved. We have more than 400 jobs which have been created. We're talking of water access has been improved across the entire project area. Healthcare services, and as I've stated, I was once a county minister for health, and I've had a first-hand experience on how the local dispensaries and health centers have been improved, and how maternal health programs have equally been enhanced through the interventions of this project, including supporting extension services or medical camps, the first level of healthcare, that is community health promoters, being supported through this pillar. Then, of course, we have the conservation efforts, whereby the deforestation levels have really gone low. The wildlife are being conserved. And again, we are really enjoying from collaboration with the government. In Kenya, we are so lucky because even the President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency William Samoei Ruto, recently led efforts of having a national legislation on carbon markets, including regulations to oversee how the revenues are being distributed equitably across the different stakeholders. And of course, looking at one of the key things that we are benefiting or we're reaping high on this project is that as opposed to the past, whereby we were just used to receiving funds from donors or aids, currently we are reaping high through conservation. So community members really appreciate the fact that they're investing a lot of energy in this project, and they are reaping big, as opposed to just waiting from donor aids from other countries. I think we're all living to the fact that, like what you said, has really done to most parts of the world. So you find such projects where we're not just relying on donors, we're just investing in nature, and our livelihoods are enhanced. So all these sectors have been impacted. We have all those more than 36 schools that have been renovated across the project area. We have more than 10 new schools that have been built. We have about 1.6 million of US dollars that have been given under scholarships program. We have more than 400 locally hired employees across the entire project area, and more than 1,700 women who have benefited from economic empowerment programs. On health sector, there is a lot of support that has been given also on laboratory enhancement, also conducting health education to the community members, supporting students who are interested to pursue matters pertaining to health, and also just offering health education to the students. And then we also have access to water being enhanced across the project area, where we have more than 50 clean water projects that have been implemented. I shall also demonstrate through some of the photos that I have for this forum. Very fast. So this is an example of the infrastructural development that has happened. You can see this is Marungu Secondary School from that is before and after. Yeah, a school has been renovated and it looks very beautiful. You can see on this end, this is part of sanitation facilities that have been improved. You can see on the left, that is how a toilet was looking like in one of the schools called Buguta Primary School. And on the right, that's a newly built toilet through this REL Plus program. You can see this is one also a live or living example. On the left, you can see how the class was looking like. These are classrooms, about 6 classrooms, which had to be put down. They had to be demolished and new ones had to be put up, which befit the standards of classrooms. This is a demonstration of scholarships being awarded. We have His Excellency, our governor, presiding over scholarships awarding ceremony worth 70 million Kenyan shillings to beneficiaries in the project area. We have like school feeding program, which has been supported through this project. These are very this is a promising generation, which is being supported through this program. Without food, some of these pupils actually do not have hope of getting food at home. So some of them even survive by just the one meal that they get from the learning institution supported by this program. This is a demonstration of the medical services being supported, whereby in some instances you have had medical supplies being boosted through this program, including the camps. This is infrastructural improvement in some of the facilities. We have like a sanitation facility in Mackinon Dispensary. We have an incinerator in one of the health facilities. And then we have a staff house, which was renovated in Sagala Health Center to ensure that the medical staff reside within the facility so that they can offer emergency medical services at night or when duty calls. This is a demonstration of the water sector, how it has benefited hugely. We have those storage tanks which have been put across in different areas according to the needs and requests of the local community members. And they have hugely benefited public institutions such as schools, health centers, which were initially struggling with inadequate supply of clean water. There's a lot of boost that this program has offered in biodiversity protection. We had, as I've said, there was a lot of illegal poaching happening. So we have instances whereby the wild animals that have maybe they have been hurt or injured by poachers, they are able to be rescued. And we have even instances of reducing the human-wildlife conflict that used to be experienced in the past. This is part of the conservation efforts, whereby as opposed to just using the normal charcoals, people used to cut down trees to make charcoal. Yeah, but the journey towards clean energy, it's a process. It can't happen overnight. So what we're doing currently through this project, there's a lot of sensitization on how we can make eco charcoal or the bricklets, whereby we just make the eco charcoal using branches of trees. Just through pruning those twigs and branches, we're able to make eco charcoal without cutting down a whole tree as we move towards use of clean energy. And through this project, as we invest in infrastructural improvement and other sectors, the youth have not been left behind. Recently, we even had the motorcycle riders, famously known as Boda Boda here in Kenya. They offer public transport. Most of them, because of the poor background where they come from, they had not gone through formal driving schools. Yeah, so through the project, they have been sensitized to be ambassadors of conservation. They were trained, issued with driving licenses, and together with protective gears, and most of them are now proud ambassadors of the Red Plus project. They no longer accept to offer services which will maybe distraction of the environment, like carrying charcoal. They have so far desisted from doing such kind of things because now they appreciate what Red Plus can do. As this happens, we have to appreciate the role of also the younger generation. So through this project, there's a lot of sensitization also happening in schools, whereby our pupils are trained on conservation and the role that they can play towards protecting our forests and even station. There is a lot of impacts. Again, some of it is intergenerational. Like this photo shows one of our local youths. This one is a son of a former poacher. Yeah, his father was a poacher, and through the project, he was supported to go through an aviation school, and he has come back. He's now giving back to the community by providing aerial surveillance service in the entire project area. Yeah, so this is a testament of what the Red Plus actually do. There's a lot of women empowerment that has also been experienced, whereby we have now the women being supported to have alternative sources of livelihood, like basket weaving. Yeah, as you can see, this is one of the very vibrant basket weaving group on the left, and on the right we have a lady from around doing soap making. Yeah, we have also had a lot of success stories on women employed in an eco factory, whereby they just do sewing, a lot of tailoring work, and we have products that are made from here and sold elsewhere. And by so doing, there's an alternative source of livelihood being created. So I think we have seen the impact that has resulted from a carbon project like the Kasarani Corridor Red Plus project. But again, we must be alive to some of the challenges that are facing this sector. And this is one of the areas that we can have a discussion on. Of course, currently globally, there is a funding gap challenge, and as well as fluctuating carbon credit prices. And I think this is largely being created by some of the criticisms that we are seeing in the global space. There's also a lot of myths and misconceptions, and I've been able to point out around about 3 of them. There are those ones who are saying that the carbon projects are purely extractive, yeah? And I think looking at a project like the Kasarani Corridor Red Plus project, we can authoritatively say that a well-designed project reinvest in communities, yeah? And by investing in communities, then you're able to provide, to empower them, yeah, so that they can be sustainable, yeah, they can, desist from relying on aids and donations, yeah, and this is what is really happening because the local committee members have been fully involved in the project. There's also a myth that benefits do not reach the grassroots level, yeah. So the reality on the ground is that proper community-led governance and monitoring ensure equitable distribution. In a project like ours, we have standard operating procedures that guide how these community-led governance structures are supposed to be elected by the community members from the grassroots level, yeah, and all the decisions pertaining to the funds generated from this project, that is the community revenue share, the decisions are made by the committees elected by the community members themselves. And we have a whole SOP booklet which guides how those processes are supposed to be followed. There's also another myth, people saying that the carbon market or the Red Plus projects have no true impact, yeah? Indeed, I've demonstrated that we have tangible evidence in employment, employment opportunities that have been created, green jobs that the local community members are benefiting from, the conservation that has been witnessed. We have improvement in education sector, the health sector, the water sector, and overall, there is a true demonstration of improved socioeconomic level of the community members. So I think when we look at a project like the Kasigao Corridor Rail Pass project, again, there's a lot of focus on community socioeconomic level improvement, forest conservation. That one we must always focus our energies on. Biodiversity protection, moving away from illegal poaching and promoting peaceful coexistence of wildlife and the human population. And then ultimately, we know that if we have a lot of support in a project like this one, we should be able to attain our net zero goals. And as I move towards wrapping up my presentation, I must say that the involvement of ESG teams really matters. The involvement of corporate teams really matters because the corporates are the key buyers of carbon credits anyway. And it's important now we understand how a properly designed and ethical project can benefit the local community, and also to stress on the fact that ethical sourcing ensures maximum community benefits. Some of the things that corporate clients need to look at as they're investing in these projects. And one of the things that we really need to stress across board is that as corporate buyer credits, source for projects to invest in, it's always important to invest in a community-led project, where the community members are fully involved and they own the project. Also, it's important to have transparency. Transparency should always be demanded by buyers for long-term and as well as long-term impact assessments being done. It's also crucial to have direct partnerships with local organizations. Like now here we have Wildlife Works managing the Kasigao Corridor Rail Pass project, and the community members are always available to have one-on-one engagement with some of these potential clients. So again, as I close, I think looking at some of the myths and misconceptions that have been happening. And again, we must be alive to the fact that there'll always be, bad actors in this sector, so it's crucial that we invest in verified and ethical carbon projects. That is very important. We have had cases and we have seen reports of some of the projects names being tarnished here and there. It's good to verify how these projects are operating on the ground. Again, we have naysayers in the global space, and I think one of the key ways to circumvent this is to engage directly with the community leaders and stakeholders so as to get the real voices of the community members on how these projects are being run and how they're impacting the lives of the local community. Again, advocating for policy frameworks that strengthen local participation is key, and we have seen a good example is our president. He has advocated for an act of parliament, which is now in place, and carbon market regulations, which are governing this space to ensure that all the stakeholders are involved and they reap hugely from this. And always now, call of action for all of us is to always promote transparency and long-term commitments, again, for lasting socioeconomic impact and environmental conservation to be witnessed across board. So I think as I conclude, I can say that I have been able to demonstrate that carbon market can really drive real change when structured inclusively. We have seen that. We have seen evidence in pictures. And the corporate sustainability teams, I must say that they have the power to shape ethical and impactful investments on how they choose for these projects, to invest in some of these projects, as well as the involvement to ensure that also they meet their own internal objectives and goals. Without these projects, it's a hard fact that the communities may return to unsustainable extractive practices to survive. like what we're witnessing currently in the global space, whereby the market has really slowed down. I think that is a danger sign. Yeah, we are afraid that if that continues, then we may find ourselves having lots of deforestation again happening, and this will frustrate our net zero goals and general conservation goals. And I think we all have a role and an opportunity to build a future where communities thrive alongside conservation efforts. As I pen down, allow me to share my contacts. That's my email address. I'm also available on LinkedIn, and I look forward to having a discussion. Thank you.
John, thank you so much for putting that all together. And I love this picture that you left us with. Thank you.
Asante, thank you.
Okay, we have time now to ask John questions. So anybody feel free to type a question in the chat or just take yourself off mute. John will stay with us for the next 25 minutes. And John, I might kick off with a question of my own, which is, I think many carbon project developers put in their messaging that there's community engagement, that there's community benefit sharing, etc. But I think there's varying levels of that across projects. So I'm wondering if you have any, in one of your slides started to talk about this, but almost like red flags where a carbon buyer might pay attention that like, if this isn't happening, maybe the project's not doing like a genuine or, you know, ethical community engagement. Are there any red flags that you would suggest buyers pay attention to? And you're on mute, John. I can't hear you.
Sorry, Margaret, I'll request that you come again. I didn't hear you properly.
Oh, yeah. I was saying that, you know, lots of projects claim to have community benefit sharing to engage with local communities, but they're doing so in different levels. I think some projects, like the one you spoke about, is really going above and beyond, and some projects might be making claims that aren't well substantiated. So do you have like advice of how buyers can tell the difference when the messaging might be really similar?
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I think one of the critical things to look at when investing in such projects is also to look at like some of the policy guidelines that have been put in place to promote community participation. It's also important now, and I was even thinking on how we could promote the voices of the local community members, especially in the global south, in some of these global spaces when the discussions are taking place. Because most of the times we have the local community members' voices being muffled by some critics at another level. So we're looking at how we can be projecting these voices for some of these carbon projects, for the corporate buyers to appreciate the level of engagement of the local community members on how the projects are being formulated and how the revenue is trickling down as intended to the various stakeholders involved in this project. And I think one of the evident things that you can see is like what I've demonstrated, where by now we have evident socioeconomic levels being witnessed, and we also have like things that are visible, like, you know, improved health facilities, education facilities, and so forth. There is also reduced deforestation. You know, these are things that can actually be seen on the ground, as opposed to an area whereby maybe you'll find a project saying that it is implementing a lot of impactful activities, but there is zero story to tell on the ground. So it's always important to listen to the ground reality, I can say.
Thank you. I'm also going to stop the recording now, and then we can continue with any questions.